I just want to live my fucking life here without bothering people, feel safe, your family, feel safe. My own son went through my own training. I said, you need to learn this too, so you can have others.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself, and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up, because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior, and on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
Welcome to the Sovereign Man Podcast, where we aim to make men masculine again. I'm your man, Nicky Ballou. We have a very special guest for you today. Tony Cohen. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Okay, now I've got to live up to that, right?
Good to have you here, brother. Michael Osterlenk has great things to say about you, and we've had a couple conversations. I've enjoyed them both, which is why I wanted you on the show today.
Okay.
Why don't you start by telling us your backstory?
First of all, thank you. And I hear great things about the podcast I did with Michael, and I haven't actually had a chance to watch it yet. Cool. So I'm wondering what he edited out and what was left in. So anyway, good feedback about it.
Yeah.
Backstory. That's the thing. So number one, I can't tell you what I can't tell you. Fill in the blanks in your mind. That's for the audience, not you. I grew up in Manchester, England. Which sounds glamorous and fun, and it's really cool. When I grew up, it was, for decades, it was the city in the Western world with the highest violent crime rate. Now, I didn't grow up in the ghetto, so to speak, not really a term there. However, small Jewish kid, non-Jewish neighborhood, non-Jewish school, no siblings. My mom died when I was 7.
Wow.
Oh, just me and my dad. And my dad had just started a business a year before my mom died. So he was kind of juggling things around. And I was like that original latchkey kid. I mean, the term didn't even exist. However, he just moved houses. So in the UK, I don't know if you use the term here. In the US, and obviously people watching say, a bungalow is a single story house. So he just bought a new house. So my mom didn't have to walk up and downstairs, and she was terminal, but I'm like 6, 7 years old. I don't know. I'm just visiting her in hospital. I just don't know. And she never got to see the new house. Anyway, so I kind of was just dropped right in it. And it's kind of weird when you're that age and you're off school for a week because your mum died, and obviously the school knows, and you go back and you get a little ostracized by kids. Not in a bad way, and not in a bullied way at that time. It was just like an uncomfortable way. So I didn't really fit in, and I tried to be the funny kid, and I tried to be a cool kid, and I was like small, skinny kid. Didn't do any extracurricular stuff back then. If they did, it was like the rich kids that did it. Perceivably rich anyway, and went through that, and I passed for what's called a grammar school in the UK.
Yep.
And it's a very prestigious thing. So if you go to the big universities like the Oxford or Cambridge, if they still are, I'm assuming they are, you generally have come from a grammar school. And back then, you couldn't pay your way in. You can now, but back then you had to pass exams. And I studied really hard. And my dad, he was an immigrant, and he worked he can't go into too many details, but he ended up in the British military and then ended up in the Israeli military in 1948. Long story, real condensed.
That's crazy, man. 1948, Independence War.
So 1948, 14th of May, his mother, my grandmother, that was her birthday as well. So kind of a whole bunch of things. He got conscripted in the UK. Sidebar story, but it's kind of entertaining. I found it out at his funeral from a bunch of guys that had strange accents. And I went to the funeral, see all these guys, and I kind of put 2 and 2 together. My dad always said he was the only person in the British military that couldn't have a week off. So I'm like, he didn't elaborate, would never tell war stories. Just I knew where he was. There's pictures of him in Egypt and all this. If you know anything about you know, SF in the UK and all that kind of stuff. Everything was, the hub was Cairo. So I don't know what the hell he was up to. But the story goes, he did his basic training in a place called Catterick in the UK. They put you on a boat. They don't tell you where you go. And he ends up getting off at Haifa. He's stood in this parade in front of this. And my dad was about 5'5". And there's a Scottish drill sergeant just drumming all these guys that are fresh off the boat, all these rookies. And apparently, this is what I was told by people that served with him, this drill sergeant, big Scottish guy, just screamed like, if everyone doesn't want to fight here, step forward. And he said, your dad stepped forward. And we were all like, what the hell's going on? And the drill sergeant got right in his face and he said, your dad was literally looking at the guy's chest. He was a huge Scottish guy. And he's screaming at my dad, why don't you want to fight? He said, well, I'm Jewish. So he said, if the Arab underground capture me, they'll torture me and kill me. And he said, and if the Israeli, the underground, the Haganah, capture me, he said, there is no Israeli underground. I said, okay, those people that don't exist, they won't kill me. They'll just keep torturing me. And he said, your dad just looked up at this guy. He said, do you even know whose side I'm on? And what's your name, soldier? Cohen. I said, oh, you're the guys that are good with the money. You can do payroll. Now, I found this out at his funeral. He never had a week off, but he only had to work for 3 hours a week, show up and give out paychecks. He had 6.5 days off every week, but he could never take 7 days off. And this was the story he fed me his entire life. So I could never confront him. And I asked these guys, what did he do the rest of the time? He said he was exempt from roll call. We didn't ask, we kind of knew. And that was that. Anyway, change sides. Israel's Israel, blah, blah, blah. The rest of it, I'm not going to go into details on. And ironically, the founder, I don't know if we did this on the last one. So one of the things I am is, multiple things, is a military, master military Krav Maga instructor. And ironically, the founder of Krav Maga, Emil Lichtenfeld, was also in that same kind of sphere where he was in the British military, then he was in the Israeli military. And there's a handful of guys like that. And I have no evidence whatsoever they ever met. I'm not like, oh, my dad knew the guy. I don't know. It'd be odd if they didn't, but I don't know. There's no pictures. And that's that. Anyway, he ends up back in England post-World War II. If you were Jewish or even had a Jewish-sounding name, they assumed you were a German spy. And he always wanted to be a mechanical engineer, and he couldn't get accepted. So he ended up working in a sweatshop, like a lot of, same as New York, 100 years ago. And he did that, and he kind of worked his way up, and the sweatshop moved, and he opened his own business with a partner. He had no idea about business. They just did it. And from that, within a year, my mom's dead. We moved house. I don't know anyone in the neighborhood, and I'm a small, skinny kid. And, one of the neighbors used to take me in because they had a son who was like around about my age. So I'd go there till my dad got home from work and all this to do. And I was kind of left, not abandoned, but left to do my thing, and obviously back then, way before any, I had a football. I refused to call it, what do you guys call it? Soccer. That's how you pronounce it, right? Soccer. It's a football. It's round. I had a football and I had a bike, and some Lego, and that was it. So I made my own entertainment, and like this kid and this, that, and the other. And then I was probably like 9 years old. I was given my own key to the front door, so I really got sick of going to this person's house. So at 9 years old, I'm completely like self-dependent. So my dad got home from work, and I guess that set me on a path of, I don't know what it is. If some shrink put me on a couch, they'd probably they'd charge me a fortune to tell me something I already know. And it kind of set me on this path. And at 11, I went to this grammar school, and out of 96 people in a year, there was only 5 of us who were Jewish, and that wasn't good. And there was another kid there called Cohen, and he was a lot bigger than me. So I was the kid that got bullied. And I put up with this shit. I hated it. I started staying away from school. And this other kid called Cohen actually now lives in LA. He told me, he said, yeah, the first week we were there, you didn't do your homework and you got taken, and all we could hear was this wooden cane getting swoosh, whack, swoosh, whack. And he said it traumatized the whole class. And you walk back in. He said, I don't know how you weren't crying. He said, you walk back in like emotionless. So when you've been through a bunch of stuff like your mum dying at 7 years old, you become somewhat resilient to a lot of things. I mean, pain's just pain. And at that point, like, I got picked on, and I would never admit it to my dad, but I kind of figured it out in the end. Like, and here's a big thing, and this is going to be a full circle thing. A lot of parents have kids that are getting bullied, and they don't know, because the kids are embarrassed, number one. Number two, the kids are made to make it feel like it's their fault. And that's what happened with me. I got the shit beat out of me by teachers and by the headmaster, the principal, with a freaking cane, like bruises, blood, everything. But I was made to feel so guilty. It wasn't even a Catholic school. I was made to feel so guilty that I didn't tell. And I just stopped going to school and this, that, and the other. And then one day, the trip switch went. And there was like 3 or 4 of these kids, this same kid. And one day, for whatever, he got right in my face, and I just did what they call it. Are you familiar with the term a Glasgow handshake?
No.
It's when someone gets in proximity to your head and you just, boom. It's known as a Glasgow handshake. It's a headbutt right to the face. And something happened. I just gave him one of those, never got bullied again. That was it. Yeah. They go pick on someone else. And the reason I'm telling you this is a full circle of life. It happened to my son coming home, went to one school, then ended up at another school, coming home covered in dirt, wouldn't admit it. And I told him, I said, this is what happened to me. And it turns out it happened to my dad. My dad had to fight his way back and forth to school. And I said, you only need to take one beating. You won't take the second one. And you might not even get the first one if you land the first punch right. But just do it and it won't bother you again. My son is actually a pro boxer, bare knuckle and traditional, over in Europe. And full circle with that is, looking back at it, it was a pivotal moment in life. It just gave me that confidence. So if someone's watching this right now that's been through stuff in school, there might just be, a man's watching this and got bullied at school or all, whatever it may be. I'm not the counselor type. And I'm also not the type that's going to say, just go punch some dude in the face and you'll feel better. There might be controlled aggression. There's waivers, right? There might be controlled aggression that you can take out in a boxing gym. And I'm saying boxing specifically, and I'm not denigrating, what I call combat sports, what people label martial arts that really aren't. The, watered down version. I'm not denigrating that, fine arts. But a lot of that is very technical, whereas in boxing, you can really drill those bags and take it out, or even get in the ring and just unload it. And that might just be that shift that you need. And from there, I quit school at like 14, 15 years old, just wasn't a fit for me. And I'm going to be fuck controversy, I'm going to say it as it is. My current business, which if we get time to do, I'll talk about, very much away in the way of AI adapted marketing. However, the best advice I'd give anyone right now, if they've got kids who are studying for school, is fuck that shit. Just tell them to spend 3 hours a day playing with their AI on the phone. They're on the phone anyway, dicking around with stuff. Just go play with that. They'll find what they want to do. Just saw a podcast or something right now with a guy. Kind of do some work with him. I'm not going to name him. But he said colleges could be defunct in 5 years. And if you look at it, that's the world we live in right now. So, I went through all this, dropped out at 15, figured out ways to make money. I didn't grow up with any money. We didn't starve, but I didn't eat well. And someone's, when I meet these guys that tell me, I'm 6'3", I mean, great, I'd be 6'3" if my dad had any money, but I'm not. So that's the way it is, I grew up on beans on toast. That was dinner, or tea as it's called in Manchester. Beans on fucking toast, or cheese slices on toast, or egg on toast. That was it. And I had school lunches, school dinners, depends where in the world you're watching this from, and breakfast of some cereal. That was it. So everyone else is shooting up and I'm not. And I just had enough. I literally spent my school days either figuring out ways to climb out the window, looking out the window, and I would show up to play sports, and that was it. I was just wasting my fucking time. And I got a job laboring on a construction, a building site. Looking back at it now, it was fucking childhood labor, what they were paying me, but I didn't know. I was the richest kid in the fucking neighborhood with £10, $20 in my pocket when I was 14. And Did that, did a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to leave a big gap in the middle there. And then early 20s, I was kind of free of some things, pretty much to go travel around the world and do things. I ended up in Canada, learned how to knock on doors, got to Canada, freezing cold, didn't expect it, no coat, no fucking gloves, holes in my shoes, literally. I landed there because there was an opportunity at the time. The UK was like, it was just collapsing. You know, sorry to say, if you're watching this from the UK, it's fucking doing the same thing now as it did in like the late 70s. And I just like bailed, ended up in Canada, learned how to knock on doors. Like, just saw opportunity. Went for it. Someone got me an interview with this guy. I didn't know anything about it. I just wanted to make some money. So I grew up without any money. So if you're watching this right now and you've grown up like that, it's like, now's the fucking time. And I will say this right now. If you go back to the agricultural revolution, 1700s, well, actually, no, the industrial revolution was first, really. 1700s just so happened started near Manchester. Unless you owned the factory or some land, or already were wealthy from the landed gentry, royalty, whatever, you worked in the, the Industrial Revolution. The modern agricultural revolution is a byproduct of the Industrial Revolution. The modern, so you end up working. You might have just been working for a roof over your head and food. You had no choice. That was it. You were stuck in it. And then, we go into the early 20th century, you worked in a factory. You weren't going to own the factory. You just worked there, and that was it. And even the digital revolution of, let's say, the late 20th century, unless you were really sort of around Silicon Valley or Pacific Northwest in the late, it's not even late, is it? Early 1980s, around there. I know people have been in AI. I know some very early pioneers from 79. Full circle, my dad in 79 used to always wanted to be an engineer. He became the family handyman, the neighborhood handyman. He used to get this magazine called Popular Electronics. I remember it. And he'd remarried by then. 1979, I remember it specifically because I call my stepmom in England like once a week. I just do. And, to find out what the weather is, because she thinks there's no such thing as a weather app on a phone. I have to call and if you've ever called anyone from the UK, you'll know every conversation starts with the weather. Too hot, too wet, too cold, too whatever. So 15 years old, we're in the kitchen, and my dad, I remember the fucking conversation, said, well, that's it. That's the end of jobs as we know it. And myself, my stepmom, I'm looking at each other like, what's he talking about? The microprocessor, that's it. They're done. Jobs are gone. They'll be gone. We thought he was losing his fucking marbles, like the ramblings of an old man. Turns out he was right. And the people I know now who are in certain situations in the AI world have been doing it since then, since 1979. So unless you were born around certain parts of the country and had access to computer, and I went to school, there was like 5 computers in the school, and you had to be the smart kid to get in that room. We were shown the room through the fucking window, like a fucking prize on a game show. And I'm just like, well, it looks very not for me. And I wasn't even allowed in the room. So unless you were in that spot, then you really couldn't take advantage of that digital revolution. However, social media changed the game somewhat. Because you could be Mr. Beast 15 years ago, or one of these guys, I've known Gary Vee for years, and a lot of these guys, Steve Bartlett. It's been 15 years in the making. So these guys that are suddenly pulling in, it's not all about money. They've got businesses that pull in $200, $300, $400, $500 million a year, or Moses, another one.
Tell me about you becoming a Krav Maga master.
My dad was one, and I kind of learned a similar place to him. And then go full circle on this, or I'm going to skip some. As I said at the beginning, I can't tell you. However, I'm in New York City. I took a mandatory retirement from the paymaster when I was 48. And I could have extended it, I just chose not to.
So hold on. You're skipping too much. What happened between 15 and 48? What did you do?
So I worked all around the world, free to do my thing.
Doing what?
Well, start knocking on doors in Canada. and I played professional football in Southeast Asia.
You did? What position did you play?
I played right wing, then midfield, then center forward.
Mm-hmm.
As you get older, you get lazier. Now I'll play substitute.
Okay.
So
how long did you play?
I played it. I was over 30 when I really got into it in a big way. Then I ended up coaching at Manchester United's academy, known as the Cliff.
Yeah.
And I wangled my way in there because my son had got in there. I basically became the dad that would help out coaching an under-8s team, and the team started.
But how long did you play?
Oh, only a few years at top level. I mean, I played my whole life, but at that top level, only a couple of years. But I did some coaching. I was the dad that helped coach, that got good, that real fast, that took over the team when someone else was sick. That all of a sudden, a lot of what I've done in my life applies to psychology.
So you played football. You started coaching your kids' team, and your kids' team was Manchester United Academy.
My kid ended up there, got scouted. Is that what they call it here? You know, they have these scouts that look at like...
Yeah.
3 of my team got scouted for Manchester United out of 13 players, which is unheard of. So I ended up there, taking my son there, and then it was the same thing. Hey, you know, I can help because I'm the guy. Oh, okay, I'll just put the cones do this. And I kind of got myself immersed in that. He did a couple of seasons at the academy, then ended up at Blackburn Rovers, and then he got into judo, then he got into something else and something else. However, it was around about that time I was also in a bit of not a great relationship with his mom, so that didn't go well. And I was all over the world on a phone call's notice. So it was a real weird one.
And so how did that lead to Krav Maga?
So Krav Maga is something I learned technically I learned some off my dad, but I learned it between the ages of 16 and 23.
Okay. And how did you become a master at it?
By training enough people. Simple as that. And it was one of those things that I wasn't told about. It wasn't something you go for. And by the way, there's no belts in Krav Maga. There's belts in commercialized Krav Maga. In the same way that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not all traditional Jiu-Jitsu. Nothing wrong with it, just a different thing. So I did that, and actually it comes from that. I've just trained so many people, and then I started training instructors from zero. So you'd be a rookie and you go through the ranks and all the rest of it. And some of these guys became instructors in their own ranks. And then I'm 48 years old in New York City. My roommate was a lawyer in Wall Street, head of HR, and she didn't feel safe around a boss. And I met her because of a situation with her ex-boyfriend where she kind of put 2 and 2 together. And we ended up being roommates and friends. And, and then she told me about this and like, hey, show me some tricks.
Tricks?
Tricks. People show me some tricks. You're not going to like the tricks I show you. And what I teach right now, I built an entire business platform. This one, I'm going to Feel Safe Daily. She didn't feel safe around her boss. So she asked me, I said, I just can't. I'm on the payroll. Like, I can't. Well, no one will find out. And listen, those guys know fucking everything. I can't. 48th birthday, she'd done her research. She's a fucking lawyer, and she's a Jewish lawyer in New York. She did her research. You can now. All right, I'll do a couple hours. And did 2 hours, 3 hours with her. And at the end, she just looked at me and she said, you've just changed the way I see the entire world in just 2 hours. There's millions of women need what you have right now today. Can you help them? And I did what any honorable guy would do. I said, no, I'm fried. I'm done. I can't handle it. I don't have the bandwidth. I can't. And she showed up like 2 days later. She said, well, if you do, I've wrote these waivers for you. I went, well, I'm not doing it. Well, you're in the US, and if you do, I went, well, I'm not. She said, well, what if someone paid you $10,000 an hour? I went, well, they're not going to. Well, if they did, I went, well, sure, I'd do it. All right, well, there's your waivers. I'm like, all right, thank you. I charged $380 an hour for the waivers for my labor, and it took me 3 hours. I'm like, wait, what? Bottle exchange one-on-one lessons. I went, yeah, okay, whatever, And she said, how much are you going to charge? I went, $380 an hour. She said, I've done my research. No one charges more than 100. I said, I don't want to do it. For $380 an hour, I'll show up. Magically, there are non-disclosures. Because of where I was in New York, I started picking up these high net worth individuals, a couple of Hollywood A-list guys, but not for the movies. The famous kind of thing that was overheard is, why do you train with Tony? Because you already know this shit. And I just want to go for a pint and a pint with my wife without some dickhead fighting my, I'm not going to name who it is because you'll put it together, my character. And then I start picking up these women that say, hey, we can't afford you, but what if we group 4 of us together or 8 of us together? So, well, I'll max out at 8 because what I do is it's not big classes, it's very intense. And a lot of it is reading, tells, twitches, little things like that on the physical side. So I start doing it as like a side gig and I start getting busy with it. And then her and I, we just fell out. And then move out here, under the radar, San Diego, no one's under the radar, right? And all of a sudden people are like, literally, hey, can we train with you? No, I don't do that anymore. What if we pay you this much? Okay, so I'm not that retired. And it was like high net worth individuals here with their families and things like that. It was never my main gig. And 2020 hit, sidebar, I was one of the original guys behind the keto movement over a decade ago. That paid it. That covered me. I built like a huge client base of 25,000 people that paid subscription model stuff every month. So I was good.
Nice.
And yeah, that's diminished since it's gone mainstream. That's what happens with a lot of things. Now you can go and buy stuff like that off the store of Amazon, whatever.
Sure.
And I'm doing a bit of this and word gets out and 2020 hits. And listen, if you're watching this, you've got your views on 2020. I've got mine. It might be similar. It might be completely different. I don't fucking care. All right. That's your view. This is my view, but I'm certainly not ramming that mine down anyone's throat and vice versa. So I just carried on doing my thing. Not much of it. And honestly, 2020, I moved to this little beach bubble from another beach place. This one's very isolated. It didn't shut down. It's literally brown paper the windows and used the back doors.
Tony, if you've done any research on me with Michael Osterlenk, you'll know exactly how I feel about this.
I know. I'm talking to your audience.
You don't need to. You don't need to act. You don't need to be so cagey, man.
Yeah, I also don't want to blow people up. But it's funny, actually. I saw.
No. That's why we exist. We want to blow people up.
Retirement thing of one of the guy that read the community cop thing. He went, I love this town because 2020 when my sergeant told me to come down and make sure no one was breaking the law, I drove down the street and like all the windows were brown papered. So I just assumed you guys were all closed. And that was that. So it was kind of a cool place to be. But what I did do is started drinking really fucking hard. I had a business that was literally like an ATM machine. Mm-hmm. You know, it's still an ATM machine, but it's depleting fast. It still pays me every week, but not much. And then did that. And honestly, like, there was fucking nothing to do. You know, the bars are all open. The restaurants are kind of open. But like, you know, here, I don't know, it depends where you're, like the fucking insanity of like yellow taping that don't walk on the beach. Don't go surfing because, what are you fucking nuts? People getting tickets for going surfing on their own.
I know, man. You live in California, bro. What can I tell you?
Oh, believe me, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Fortunately, this bubble I live in, it's not like the rest of it over the bridge.
Yeah. There's places like that in that state.
Yeah, I'm in one of them. But the fucking governor here is a fucking ass.
He's a twit. He's a twit. You know, he's
not a word for him, but Australians like it, Americans don't. But the mayor's the same. And I got involved in local politics and saw this shit show from the inside and just like corruption and whatnot. I called a guy out and, oh no, that doesn't go on here. Fucking guy's up on like 9 felony charges now for shit. So I'm just like, But I hit the booze hard because I was bored. I'm living by the ocean, like fucking life's good, right? Living the fucking dream. Sit on the beach, have a margarita. And then You know, if you've ever seen those things, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self? Mine is always, I should have bought the vineyard before I bought the wine. I love great wine. So I just had a great fucking time for 2 years. And then it was like, you know, I'm going to take a break and do like a dry July thing.
Dry July.
Yeah, I'm not like the preachy, sober, fucking nauseating people that are like the new vegans, right? Like, do what you want to do. Who fucking cares? And I did a dry July. I lasted 40 days and 40 nights. It was fucking biblical. And my buddy said, did you end it with the flood, though? And, oh, you've no fucking idea. I had one glass of wine and went on like a Viva Las Vegas. I went on a tear. And then just one day realized, like, I'm just, like, going through the motions. And, I feel better waking up in the morning and just coming around. So I'm going to take a break. And that was 3 years ago. And, you know, everything was good. No fucking idea what I'm doing. I've got a business that's doing well, albeit it was on the decline, but it was still fine. I didn't give a fuck. I was bored. I had a business partner, great guy, former Marine guy. He'll probably see this. I'm not going to call him out. You know, I don't have many close friends, but he's definitely one of them. And he sent me a book by Hormozy. Alex Hormozy, that first book.
Alex.
$100 offer. And this is not a plug for the book. This is my own business partner I work with, and we make money together. Just sent me a book. He said, we were on a call with like Russell Brunson, and it was a big deal because only like 3 of us on it. You know, so Russell's like $100,000 an hour to game talk, and we just pulled a favor. And I got called out a little bit, and something pinged, and he sent me this book, said, I don't know what's going on with you in your life. You're clearly bored shitless. Read that book. He said, I've known you for over a decade. He said, something will start firing off in your brain and synapses will start going. And then just like, whew, got to do it. Woke up in between properties. I was couch surfing at friends. Woke up. I always have pen and notepad. Always have a fucking pen and notepad next to the bed. 2 a.m, couch surfing at my buddy's place. Turn on the light on the phone. Start scribbling. So I'm hearing all these guys like just killing it financially, and I wasn't at that level. And I'm talking to these guys on the phone thinking, fuck, I'm smarter than them. You're probably watching this fucking thing now going, fuck, I'm smarter than that dick. You probably are. All right.
That doesn't mean anything, bro. That doesn't mean anything. Listen, Alex Hormozy is Iranian, right? He's Persian. His name is an Iranian name. I knew he was. I knew that he was Persian before. He's worked his ass off. Good for him. He's made a lot of money. But this is not the business podcast. This is the men's podcast. And
I sent him a page. I sent him a pager, but he didn't use it anyway.
Yeah, he's. I don't know him.
So
I don't feel Alex Hormozy is someone who I would personally follow.
No, so what happened is I read the book, and that's my point. I read the book, and it just started firing shit off in my brain, and I started writing. And that message from that woman, the lawyer, when I was 48 years old, started pinging. I'm like, fuck, I got to do this thing now. And I created a whole online platform, because there's no way I'm going to be able to train 2-3 million women. And I thought about building out as a franchise model to help all these women around the world, and it's just like, 2020, fuck that for everyone. And I started building it out, and then it's like I'm hearing all these fucking stories, and I will tell you this right now because I've just realized who the audience is. There's one big challenge for guys, and it's fucking ego. My high-paying clients that I train their daughters and their wives, every fucking one of them could have a bar fight. They're all like guys in the 40s. You know, and you know what? Every one of them definitely has and could hold their own. And they do like, you know, the jiu-jitsu type stuff or the wrestling or whatever. But they release that and go like, you know, and one of them is just like, yeah, I'm going to bar fight. I'd be fine. Someone broke in my house. You know, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, can you help? And when I hear that, we need your help, it's like, yeah, I can do that. So if you're watching this as a guy, you know, somebody of the week. Oh, I don't need.
We don't use the G word here, man. We don't use the G word, man. Not guy, man.
I have a New York phone number, man. If you're watching this as a man, just like let them go learn it on their own. And I'll tell you for why. What you do and how it works for you doesn't work for them. If you can have a bar fight because you can bench press 300 pounds, great. It's not going to work for your 15-year-old daughter who's getting bullied or picked on at school or whatever it may be. And I've just heard, I'm building this thing out. I interviewed like 300-400 women, and the fucking horror stories are beyond. And it's you know, it's one of those things. But you know, from a man's perspective, everything outside always looks rosy. There's a bunch of men out there that are fucking hurting right now. There's a bunch of fucking bullshit out there. I'm not going to get political, but there's a bunch of bullshit out there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not fucking buying into it. Like, I don't force feed my shit on you. Like, do your fucking thing. You know, I got called out the other week, so I won't hire vegans. I don't want to listen to that. You know, if you're a vegan, I don't know about it, fine. But if you're going to start preaching to me about that or anything, like, no, I just want to live my fucking life here without bothering people. You know, feel safe. Your family, feel safe. You know, my own son went through my own training because he got bullied, and then he was a boxer, and he fucking, this, that, and the other. I said, you need to learn this too, so you can have a bonus. And it's like, okay. And kind of just release that. And, you know, it's like, it's an interesting time right now. The politics globally is massively fucking divisive, you know, wherever you are. It just is. People are losing their fucking minds over the slightest thing, you know, things that shouldn't even be an issue. Like, what the fuck do I care who models clothes that I'm not going to wear? Why do I concern myself with that shit? You know? Yeah, good on you. Do your thing. And I think it is a time right now where it can also go extreme the other way. You know, let's call it extreme alpha. I'm just using a label there. Where we just, if you go back to like post-World War II, where a man had a wife and raised a family, and there was none of this shit of like overly aggressive whatever. You know, if you're a married man and your wife wants to go out and build a career, fine. And if she doesn't, fine. Or if your wife wants to build a career and wants you to stay at home and
we're not down with that. We're not down with that.
Oh, I'm giving you one right now. Fix the house up and flip houses. Not sit at home and on the couch and do that. Because I know people who've done that. The wife has a career. They're flipping fucking houses. The man is having a great time being the home handyman and doing that. So whatever.
To each his own. To each his own.
Yeah,
no question.
No, exactly. That's not my thing. You know.
So, as we wrap up, Tony, what's the name of your company? What's the website? Where can we send people?
For the safety, it's Feel Safe Daily. So if you go to feelsafedaily.info or Feel Safe Daily on all the Insta, Facebook, things like that. But feelsafedailyinfo.info. The other thing, and I'll wrap with this. I know it's not a business thing, but you know, if you're trying to, you might be a man that loves gardening or building shit or a plumber or whatever, and you're sick of your fucking job because of your boss. I might have something for you there where you can just go, or even just want to build like a podcast or anything like that. That's only brands marketing. And the same thing. I don't have websites. I just have like assessments, quizzes. If it's for you, if it's not for you, it's fine. It's not like we don't try and fucking sell you anything. No, we don't. It's just
Tony. You're a Manchester original. It's been fun having you on the podcast, brother. God bless you.
I'll take it.
Yeah, God bless your heart. And that's a wrap.
Thanks, Nicky. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Hey, share it out if it's not too offensive.
Amen.
Or if it is offensive, fucking share it anyway.
Damn straight.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man Podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.